caught watching it in Oklahoma State, West Virginia.
How'd that end?
Oklahoma State by 3.
Really?
So, freshman, well, was a freshman. Same kid who hit a couple threes last year. Hit a couple threes this year. So, yeah, Penn State, get a very good Penn State team, a team that swept us last year, a team that is extremely talented. They are, boy, when you dive into them, I really like their parts. They've got a elite guard in Carr, arguably maybe the best point guard in the league. He's got great size. He scores at a, I don't know if he's leading the league or second, maybe in second. Kata leading it. But can go get one. I mean, he's got size at 6'5". He scores a lot off the bounce. I love the Watkins kid inside. I love his. He's kind of like Inspector Gadget. You know, he's got the long arms and they just go forever. And he clogs the paint up. And then they've got some guys that know their roles. So this is a team that offensively I think has a lot of pieces. They're not an extremely deep team in terms of when you start looking at it, productivity off the bench, but they're very much improved, and a very, very good basketball team, and one we'll have to really sit down and guard and play better than we did the other night on the defensive end, because that was one of those few games where there was very little recognition of anything that we were trying to do, especially on the defensive end. They had possession, they made 8 passes. I can't tell you the last time one of those happened. And, you know, that's, I guess, shows our lack of immaturity and maybe our lack of inspiration. But we'll see if we can be better tomorrow at some of those things.
Brad, Wisconsin normally, it didn't appear to be a good matchup for your team. Does Penn State appear to be a little bit better of a matchup, man for man?
Yes and no. It's Wisconsin's hard because of their Wisconsin didn't run much. You know, I mean, it was just a few little simple actions, but it was the way that they got into it. It's how they went about it. They weren't a set oriented team. Penn State's not either. Penn State will run a few actions, but if we don't deny and we don't play with more inspiration, with more fire than we did against them, they'll be a bad matchup too. Carr concerns me. Just simply he's a point guard with size, and he's a guy that's proven that he can score the ball on all 3 levels.
Brad, Trent's performance against Wisconsin and what he's been doing puts him in some elite company among UI freshmen over the years. Would you have predicted what he's doing now at the outset of this season, or when you first arrived and worked with him?
Well, I think you'll remember I said early, he's going to have some big games for us. He's that type of scorer. And I said earlier, again, you'll remember I said he's got a lot of swagger. He's the one kid that I knew had tremendous swagger. To be as consistent, I think if you take his 4 for 30 start out of it, Trent's pushing 43, 44%, or right about there from the 3. You take, I may be wrong on this, I'm not sure he scored against Northwestern, but he had to go through the process of learning how to play. His basketball IQ is really high, his feel's really high, so that expedites his learning curve. And then it was a matter of him kind of getting a feel for the game and what it's about. And now you throw confidence in with that, and now you're starting to see a guy that's got that potential. But I knew he'd have big games. I knew there'd be some nights where he was going to have 20+ point nights, because he's that guy. That's who he is. He can do some things that not a lot can. He's put himself into, a nice place, with 30-point games, and he's a really good player. He's a really good player. He's got, the thing that's exciting about him is he's got a whole nother level or two to go to, because he's going to continue to improve and get stronger and do those things as well.
Coach, late in the second half, particularly in the half court, a lot of the offense was Trent going and getting one. And you said that that's not necessarily something you always like. Does that change your game planning going forward? And maybe
Sure.
what wasn't working with the traditional spread offense? 2
for 13 from your, the object's to score. I don't care where it comes from. And it's a difference. You look at the longevity. You look at my coaching career. I played with a point guard who couldn't score. I played with one who was a pro. You have to adapt. You have to adjust. And there are nights that things don't work. And I'm not, we're challenged at times scoring basketball. And getting the ball to LeBron sometimes isn't easy as it sounds, but somebody has to deliver the ball to LeBron. And, you start going back and looking at the film, there were a lot of feet in the paint. And just kind of spreading it, giving the ball to Trent was a pretty good option. He's the one guy that can make that. And as long as teams are going to switch us, we're going to attack it. And I'm very much a guy who's going to ride the hot hand of a guy who gets it going. And I've always been that way. I believe in that. I loved it as a player, and I do it as a coach. But Mark had a tough night. Mark was, 1 for 10 or whatever, he was 11, 9. Mike didn't get going, and AJ hit one late. But it's just, there's not a lot of space, and when there's not a lot of space, we got to get things figured out there.
I understand you're back in the gym pretty early yesterday morning. You've been in the post disappointing game or practice before. Has there been a change in the team's response, or what's been their response to?
Well, the reason we were in the gym didn't have anything to do with the way we played. That didn't have one thing to do with the way we played. So we were in there for other reasons. And I keep saying this is a process. It's about growth, and it's about culture. And you guys have got to do the right things off the court to do them on, and you have to win that way. And I got a pyramid I use all the time: talent, character, preparation, and at the top of it is a result. And it's got to be in that order. And our reason for being in the gym wasn't what we did the other on the court. So we've got to get some things right there. And they were told before they knew. So, but yeah, came around yesterday. We had a pretty good hour and a half, hour and 45-minute workout.
You said Kimbrough's dealing with some illness against Wisconsin. Is he feeling better? You're gonna have everybody?
Yeah, he was fine at 6 o'clock yesterday morning. He'll be back.
Brad, you mentioned Penn State not having a productive bench. How does that impact your game planning?
Well, they play 5 guys a lot of minutes, and I think one of the things that we've been able to do through the course of the year, we foul too much. We also put a lot of fouls on people. Where people draw 21, 22 fouls a game in ours. And I had one of the officials the other night tell me we were a Chinese fire drill this game. And I'm not saying that in a way, but that's when we foul, we put a lot of fouls on opponents too when we're aggressive. That can impact the game when you don't have tremendous amount of depth. I think the one thing that doesn't have anything to do with whether they're good or bad players. Their starting five really, really good, as good as anybody in this league, and they proved that winning at Ohio State. This team is good, and they just like to keep those guys on the floor a bunch. But you know, we've got to do our part and stay aggressive and offensive rebound you know, it's with us, it's about being aggressive and not passive. And if we can get some fouls on those guys, it's positive.
You mentioned Mike Watkins, and obviously he's one of the better shot blockers in the league. Were there things maybe you can take away from say, the Minnesota game and Reggie Lynch? Is the way things happen there? Where you think
They're very similar. We've spent all morning and most of yesterday trying to work on that, and it's, you know, and it's some different things that we've got to do. He's, you know, Reggie's was an elite shot blocker, and Mike does those same things, and you know, there's it's not the first time. I think we've grown a little bit, seeing Michigan State's length and size, and you know, other teams around the league. So I think we're a little better prepared for that now than maybe we were when we faced Minnesota at that point. But very similar type guys. Thanks, guys.